Welcome to a quick game day preview of the Illinois basketball game in Champaign against Rutgers on Sunday at, I believe it's noon local time. I'm going to have a special guest on in a second, but I did want to mention that I just checked our metrics. 92% of you watching this video are not subscribed. What are we doing here, guys? Do me a quick favor. Click that button, that like button, wherever it might be. Hit that subscribe button. It really, really helps small channels like mine grow and reach an audience that might be interested. But enough of that. Let me once again, bring on special guest Aaron Breitman from the Scarlet Faithful. Aaron was a guest on an earlier episode. Aaron, thank you for coming back on.
Thanks for having me.
I did want to say, when we talked earlier, I was kind of nervous because Illinois tends to have rougher games at the rack. This very much seems like a home dominant series between Rutgers and Illinois. But Illinois didn't really have much trouble at the rack earlier in December. How has the team changed from that point to where we're at now?
Yeah, Rutgers is definitely a team that's been kind of evolving. They've had some injury issues, which has been a big part of it. The key for me in this matchup is that, the last time Rutgers played Illinois, they got destroyed on the boards. It was plus 28 for Illinois. So Rutgers has Mawat Mag back finally. He was obviously a key piece to that team last year. That they were off to that 8-4 start in Big Ten play, and in second place, he was really kind of the glue guy for the team and someone that was really steadily improving game after game. Tore that ACL against Michigan State at Madison Square Garden last year, and Rutgers really tumbled after that. So he was slow out of the gate this year. They were very cautious with him, which was a good thing. Didn't return until after that Illinois game. Made his debut on the road at Seton Hall, in which Rutgers played, I would say, their best game of the season. Beat who's now in first place in the Big East, Seton Hall, pretty handily. And Mag had a big part in doing that. Just he makes them so much tougher defensively and on the boards. But what's been great to see of late is his last 5 games, he's averaging over 15 points a game. His scoring is really blossoming. He's, he had a couple backdoor cuts in the win over Nebraska. He just brings a physicality and a tough mentality on the court. But also makes up for a lot of deficiencies defensively. And I think is going to be a big factor in this game and makes Rutgers, I think, a tougher matchup for Illinois, even with Shannon being out, even if he was playing. But him likely being out in this game, it's definitely a different dynamic. Rutgers has, plays a deeper bench. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, they've struggled as a team from 2-point range, historically low right now, shooting in the KenPom era, the worst 2-point shooting team in Big Ten play in over 25 years. So they were better against Nebraska, but that is a key in this game. Rutgers was able to hit some threes against Nebraska and keep up there. But can they finish at the rim against Illinois? That, I think, is a big question in this game.
That should be interesting because the Brad Underwood defense this year is basically built on making the opposing team take bad 2-point shots. So we'll kind of see the wills of both teams and see what kind of strategies they incorporate. Speaking of strategies, I saw in the preseason poll Rutgers was ranked, I believe, 10th in the Big Ten conference. You struggled a little bit out of the gate when it comes to the conference, but you've won your last couple of games. How would you rate the job that Peichel has done thus far this season?
Well, I think it's an interesting season. I mean, fan expectations are based on the past few years. Even though the roster is pretty new, I think that the struggle has been fan expectations versus the reality that having Cam Spencer and Paul Mulcahy transfer out in basically the middle of the offseason, May and June, has left this roster deficient in certain areas. So you lost your starting backcourt. You lost a ton of experience. You lost your best shooter. You lost your best distributor. So I think Rutgers has been trying to make up for that, and it's been a up and down struggle in that. I think Peichel has done a good job in terms of keeping this team together. They've kept their defensive identity. They're number 6 defensive efficiency nationally, but they've really struggled on the offensive end. KenPom is the 250 range. and they've really just struggled to make shots. I think we're starting to see some things click now. Derek Simpson is starting to step up in that point guard role, and they just shared the basketball a lot better against Nebraska. There's been a little bit of not hero ball, but I think they've just lacked patience on offense, and players are trying to make things happen individually, and they haven't done a good job of working the defense in the half court, in terms of ball reversals, and they've gotten a little bit of dribble, drive, shoot, and they've taken some bad twos. They've also missed a lot of layups. They haven't done too well. They've done a pretty good job at getting to the foul line, but haven't finished very well from there as a team. So they're still trying to find themselves on the offensive end. We've seen some encouraging signs, I think, in that Nebraska win, and it's about can they build momentum here on the road in a tough environment. They've never won against a really good defense in Illinois. That is bigger team than them. But I think you'll see that Pikiell's, the lineup's a little bit different now. Austin Williams is starting now. And like I said, Mag is there as well. So it's definitely a different Rutgers team that Illinois will face. I think it's just a matter of how disciplined can Rutgers be on the offensive end in this game.
Currently, what are the aspirations for the Rutgers fans in regards to their basketball team? Is making the tournament still something you guys are kind of gunning for, or at this point, let's just finish off the season strong and maybe get an NIT bid? What's the goal here?
Well, that's a good question. It kind of depends who you talk to. I mean, there's been a lot of negativity for sure. Part of that is a product of just how far Pikiell has brought the program. And saying this could be a transition year. It depends, the perspective of the fan you're talking to and how they handle that. Obviously, next season, huge expectations with the recruiting class they have coming in. But college basketball is different now too, right? I mean, with the transfer portal, things change overnight. So I think there's definitely the expectation that after this season, Pikiell's got to add some pieces through that transfer portal. Another X factor for Rutgers is that Jeremiah Williams, a guy that Illinois fans should know, who originally committed to Illinois in the offseason, transferring from Iowa State, ended up at Rutgers and also waiting the word on his eligibility with that gambling probe. There's a chance the NCAA could rule any day now that he could be eligible based on serving a half-year suspension, or he could get the full year. But he's a guy that Rutgers is counting on, especially for next season. But if he becomes available any day now, I mean, that could raise expectations for this team. He is either going to start or play a key role. They also have a big guy, Emmanuel Egbol, who's been hurt all year, who could be available any day as well, coming off an ACL tear. So they've been a little bit shorthanded. Um, People don't want to accept the fact that this is a down year. I think the way the schedule opens up for Rutgers after Illinois and then Purdue next week, there's a lot of winnable games on the schedule in February. So I think it's too early to rule them out in terms of being off the NCAA board. The one thing about Rutgers' resume, they have no bad losses. All their 7 losses are to quad 1 opponents. Now, that being said, they need some quality wins here. The Nebraska win was a Q2. The Seton Hall Road win was their kind of prize win right now, and a quad 1. So this is a huge opportunity for Rutgers. If they could go into Illinois and win on the road, I mean, that's a high Q1 opportunity for them. This could certainly raise the ceiling for where this team could be if they could take care of business with a lot of winnable games in February. So certainly a team in transition. I don't think it's time to give up yet. Obviously, they have an uphill battle to get into NCAA bubble projections, but I still think it's possible because it's been such a unique season with the way their rosters evolved and who's been available and how they've been dealing with injuries. If they can kind of get healthy now, which they kind of have, and stick together and kind of evolve offensively, this is a team that plays defense that will keep them in any game.
Once again, Sunday, it's a noon local time tip off. Let's say we find out Rutgers wins the game. What would you think the game script would have to be for the Scarlet Knights to pull off that upset?
Yeah, they're going to have to hold their own on the boards in this game. They're going to have to score some kind of easy baskets, whether that's second chance points on the offensive glass, whether that's creating, opportunities in transition. They can't just rely on the half court. They're going to have to hit some threes. To expect them to get on fire is probably unrealistic, but they're just going to have to be more efficient offensively. They're going to have to share the basketball, and they're going to have to play really good defense as always. I think the fact that Illinois does play a shorter bench now is something that Rutgers needs to lean into. They hold opponents to long possessions in the half court, so they're going to have to try to. It's almost like body blows against Illinois. They're going to have to wear them down a little bit on the defensive end, and they're going to have to make some shots on the offensive end. And I think in this game, you're going to have to attack Illinois and finish near the rim. That's going to be a tall task. But I think if Rutgers does win the game, that's what's going to have to happen.
I think I agree with that. This is not a game that I hope Illini Nation take for granted, especially with the quick turnaround that we have from the game in Ann Arbor on Thursday night, and then we have a game early on Sunday. With us really essentially only playing six guys, the guys might be a little bit tired. I'm really hoping that the lack of energy that we had last week against Maryland at home doesn't transfer over to Sunday's game, but we'll see. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on today. Can you please let the folks know where they can find you?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me again. That's Aaron underscore Breitman on X, and that's AARON. And then also the Scarlet Faithful podcast. I'm a daily podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. So appreciate you having me on, and thanks again.
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you all. And hopefully, we'll see if Illinois pulls off a victory on Sunday. We might do a post-game podcast there. Otherwise, there could be potentially very big recruiting news happening on Monday, which I believe might go in Illinois' favor, and we'll release an episode for that. So until then, ILL.